I like how, what's his name, Kevin Whibley likes to retool my comments, thinking it doesn't actually make him look manipulative. To read one out now. At least you admit you're mental? No, I have not. I've said that I was more mental whilst on psychotropic meds than I am now. And of course with the admission that you need controlling, no, the attempt to control me failed, which would imply that if an attempt to control me failed, then I wouldn't have needed controlling for a true state of self-controllability at the truth and as a false value and needing to have that control surrender to others. Obviously, surrender to control to others made no difference to the state previous, therefore the true state stands. And of course, he doesn't have the kind of deduction to follow that through, so instead of engaging in a true intellectual process, he engages in this sociopathic manipulation. And this is a repetitive pattern of Kevin Whibley's sociopathic behavior, which repeats itself as a pervasive theme throughout our correspondences, starting from, and I guess I should go to the beginning. He denies that he's destined. My argument was very concisely and precisely set out, and it follows thus, and I need to go and skip towards it. These transphobic sociopaths are kind of, they're because he's schizophrenic, you see, and extremely female in his mind, but thankfully British psychiatry doesn't recognise his disorder as anything but an extreme mental illness. He's probably very resentful that he himself can't transition, even though his neurology gives him a screaming desire to, on the basis that he is inherently on the extreme feminine side of the spectrum, extreme estrogen exposure in the brain, causing a gross estrogen receptor insensitivity throughout life, causing psychotic disorders, and it's causing psychotic depression with the disbalance of testosterone to estrogen. This is the kind of disorder that Kevin and other sociopaths, and especially Kevin in this case, I guess, suffer. Blah blah blah. Let's get back anyway to business. I had an argument I'd set out propositionally. It's not paranoia to see patterns. Patterns are an everyday occurrence. Patterns are seen in nature. Patterns are seen in the numerology of those natural phenomena and within architecturalized phenomena. We can see patterns in things like intangible things like social relations, as well as intangible things like physical objects. And so, really, what we're seeing here is not a manifestation of psychosis, because, see, Kevin doesn't actually understand systematization. He's of the opposite of the neurological spectrum to me. So, of course, he can't conceive that there's a natural patternizing process in humans. He's a sociopathic schizophrenic, and thus is so divorced from autism as to actually be alien to neurotypicals as well, on the opposite end. So, Kevin has no systematization whatsoever, so he thinks everything is a sociological and a magic thinking process. He's like an African using education as a totem to access the higher social sphere of white society. Education, just using blacks in education as an example, blacks don't understand what higher education is for, they only understand that it's a ticket. It's a ticket to get to success. And this is about the degree of understanding that Kevin has of analysis in anything. It's a totem to get him to win an argument, because he only knows conceit and spite, and can't look at things logically. That's normal. That's normal with autistic systematization, and yes, I covered this already. Sorry, this microphone keeps cutting out. If you're friends with Letitia Golana, and the rest I could just spew from memory here. Letitia Golana's contact entry was seen repeatedly, not only specifically to Gatekept, but to sock puppets. A friend with whom there are actually few connections with other people other than Kevin. Letitia Galena as a loner, some kind of lone dad whose mother died and now cares a bunch of spastic kids. I don't know the complete specifics, but to delineate the full detail of the argument. And he makes a reappearance on two supposedly distinct accounts friends lists of a user with the exact same writing style as them. Statistical chances are that you are them. And it's something I raised my shoulders to an inquiry. And indeed, it's a very interesting inquiry, just like the rest of the psychoanalytical arguments. He uses the classic projection, smokescreen. Chav psychology can be split into a triangle with three aspects because he doesn't understand anything else. Projection, deflection, reflection. Projection, deflection, reflection involves boiling down all of human relations to three states of shiftily maneuvering and guileful, manipulative behavior. Meaning, he actually has no understanding of social relations, as he reveals, and tacitly, beyond these archetypes he uses, and when he describes a projection process, he describes his own projection of that same analysis that he had applied to be wrote verbatim from his own experiential garbage, the noise of the mind that he's accrued over the years in his ill-guided experience. For all experience is invalid in the face of logic, experiential, guttural retard. The empirical gutter has nothing on the idealism of the mind, it's I. And so, he then goes on about escape, which would actually contradict this empiricist ideology, and I think that's actually his own desire to escape. Like I've mentioned, Kevin is a cryptic gender dysphoric male who wants to transition into a female but can't due to schizophrenia diagnosis, which he had admitted in the past. That's why he's taking out his frustration on me, Kevin or Kayla or whatever the fuck. And then he goes on. Then he goes on to say that everyone, that he's actually representative of everyone. This is an argument called appeal to popularity. It's also called the fallacy of self-representation, and it's actually he can't possibly know what kind of base of support he has, seeing as not all of his resources are coherently or in a streamlined fashion mobilized toward and devotion towards his crusade against me. And that's why it's impossible for him to make value claims like he represents the common wisdom and experience of everyone, and he represents the common voice of reason and experience. And this is very feminine archetypology in and of itself, further affirming my point that Kevin is himself a suppressed transsexual. That's all I have for right now. I hope to make a second part of this, because I will admit it wasn't the most rigorous summation of his argumentation, solely because there's so much to sift through. I'm going to collate it tonight, and I'll see what I come up with in terms of a more detailed investigation, line for line, tomorrow. And that's all. Good day.